Welcome back, everyone. Here with Hopkinton boys basketball coach Liam McNicholas. Liam, this is your second season coaching this team, following a year where you guys went to the playoffs, lost to Campbell in the first round, but a lot of lessons learned with a younger team now back and hungry to take the next step forward this season. So let's just get started here. What were kind of the main takeaways from last year?
Yeah, obviously I learned a lot in my first year. Varsity's much different than JV. Primarily just dealing with expectations of the players. You know, we had 7 seniors, so there was people. You know, guys had been playing really hard for a few years, and this was like their final year, and it was hard to try and find playing time for everybody, especially when our 2 best players emerged as underclassmen. One was a junior and one was a freshman. So I think I kind of took too long to realize that, and I tried to please everybody. And in the process, I think it just created some unhappiness, I guess, among the team. And they never acted out. They never had any attitude or anything. But I think the lack of what I thought our team chemistry should have been probably held us back a little bit. And that was just because of me and my inexperience and not doing a good enough job. So I tried to really focus on that, and it's something I've been hammering down on this year, is just like expectations for playing time. We're pretty top heavy this year. We only had 6 returning varsity players, and 2 of those guys were swingers. So realizing that, you know, the depth on the bench might not play as much as the guys they saw last year when they were, you know, on the JV team and they watched all our games. So that's been something we've been dealing with. And I'm trying to get better at it. I've told the guys, like, this is the thing I struggle with the most, is like, I wish I could play everybody the same amount of minutes every game, but we're trying to win basketball games and that's just not realistic. So just being the bad guy more, and realizing that comes with a job, that comes with the territory. Like JV at Hopkinton, you play everybody every game, which I liked. I liked finding ways to get everybody in and out of the game. And now at varsity, like, we just played Monday and one guy on my team didn't get in, and like that kills me. Like after the game, I'm just thinking about it. Like, so just realizing that like I can't please everyone, and we're trying to win basketball games has been hard for me.
Okay. So was there anything that you and Justin discussed after that Campbell game at the end of the season? Because I think he's a very good coach and he's young, kind of like you, but has a little bit more experience.
Yeah, I think Justin's a tremendous coach, and he's been really, really helpful for me. Because I remember playing against him, 10 years ago. So he was one of those kids that, like, on the court, you could tell he was going to be a coach. Like, he was a point guard, classic, like, leader. So he's always been very, very complimentary of the team. Even last year when I wouldn't say we went under the radar, but we were the only team that made the playoffs without anybody being an all-state member, which I thought was kind of crazy. And Justin he wasn't caught off guard by any of our guys. He scouted for everybody. Jackson Westover was our center last year. He broke his foot and was out for the majority of the season, and he came back to practice before that playoff game, and Justin was prepared for him. Like, you can't get anything by him. So realizing like what it takes to be prepared at the varsity level, I did a lot of scouting. I tried to be like as prepared as possible, but like realizing like how to take the scouting into the game scenarios and using it to the best. Just being able to take like a bunch of information and dilute it down to like necessary parts for the players. And like, you can't go over every single aspect of every game with 13 guys. Like, there's too much information. And I think he does a really, really good job of like focusing on what's most important. So seeing that like was just really helpful for me, especially because he's a younger guy. Like he puts a lot of work in, and you can see.
When you were done with the season last year and you got the chance to watch like Final Four, for example, the coaches in that was Silas Ayers from Mascoma, Nate Camp from Kearsarge, Dave Morissette from St. Thomas, and then Tony Martinez from Belmont, who ended up winning it all with his Red Raider squad. When you watch those guys coach in those, very meaningful games, was there anything you were able to pick up on?
Yeah, just the professionalism and the like staying calm, cool, collected. Like none of those four guys are crazy screamers. Like they don't have like this commanding, intimidating presence. Like they're always under control. I would say like quietly confident. Like, I played against Camp as a player. Like he's always been that way. And then I played against Mascoma and St. Thomas, or I didn't play. I coached against Mascoma and St. Thomas. So I knew that Silas and Dave, like they're incredible coaches. I think Dave's the best coach in the division. I think he does an incredible job. And then we unfortunately don't play Belmont, but they were the favorite all year last year. And every coach I talked to had great things to say about their team. And Tony, I think, you know, I don't think you get enough credit when you have a talented team like that, but like utilizing those players to the best of their ability is important. Like he did win coach of the year. Like it's not an accident. So those four guys, you can just tell that they weren't afraid of the moment. They were like, yeah, we're supposed to be here, which I think is important.
Right. So off-season summer program, I know Hopkinton's kind of tough because summertime, a lot of people go away on vacation, and it's not always the easiest thing to run when you have some people there some days and not the other days. Was there anything that you switched up in terms of the way you ran the summer differently than you did your first year?
Yeah, so the first year was really tricky because I got the job like right at the beginning of the summer. And with seven seniors, we returned 12 players to the varsity team my first year. So there was no questions about who was going to be on what team. But I don't know if we ever had like more than six of them in the gym at a time, just because when like going into your senior year, you have a lot going on. You're visiting schools, you're focusing on, your other sports, soccer, baseball, golf, whatever it is. Like, especially at Hopkinton where kids are like well-rounded athletes. There's not a lot of just basketball players. So I went here, like I know how it is. My friends were the same way. Like I was a basketball player, but my best friend was a lacrosse player. I had friends that played baseball, soccer. So like I understand how hard it can be, especially as like a captain, like trying to cajole your friends to coming to open gyms and stuff. So we kind of went into the year knowing it would be hard to get everybody in the gym. So just jumping ahead of it the second year, because I knew that we had fewer returning players at the varsity level, but I knew we had a ton of interest in the incoming freshman class was really strong. They lost in the championship of their middle school league. So they love basketball. And, the first open gym we had, there was over 20 kids. So I think what mattered the most, though, was our best player, Ben Normand. He missed one open gym all summer. So if your leader, your best player is showing up every single day, like that transfers down to everybody.
That's a great point. I know you had briefly mentioned that during our talk after the alumni game, but I think reiterating that is important. Now, getting into this year, preparation wise, you start off with the first game against Somersworth, I'm pretty sure. So talk us through each of the games, starting off with that one.
Yeah. So the Somersworth game was tough. The first game of the year, I think, is kind of the hardest as a coach because there's no film to game plan on. You don't know what coaches have changed. You don't know what players are new. And Somersworth had just gone through an unspeakable tragedy. And Jeff, their coach, I think does a really, really good job, Jeff Gregoire. And, we played them last year in the first game. We won by double digits, but it was dicey early on. So my goal going to this game was like, guys, if we want to be the team that you guys think we can be, like we need to start it right here. Like it starts on the first game. And we came out the gates really slow. We scored 4 points in the first quarter, all from Jackson. Now we didn't have Ben. He sprained his ankle, but that's no excuse. Like we just got out hustled and outplayed that first quarter. Like they looked like they cared more because they obviously had a ton to play for. And you could tell like those guys are working their butts off. But we rallied. Jackson Westover just put the team on his shoulders. He had 28 points, 23 rebounds. Like, the big thing with us is our size. I think we're the biggest team in the division. And Somersworth has a lot of football players, but they didn't have a ton of height. So that's kind of Jackson's like bread and butter, is if there's like strong guys down low that he can go toe to toe with. Like, he wants to battle guys. So it was really good for him. And a huge confidence boost. You know, like I said earlier, he broke his foot last year, so he missed a ton of the year. So just to start his season off that way was excellent. And he was one of those guys, because he doesn't play a fall sport. He was at every single open gym. He really became a great leader for us. So seeing him reap the rewards of his hard work right away was really exciting. So we got that win. But we did come away with it being like, all right, the slow starts are still an issue, because that was a really big bugaboo for us last year. Like, we just came out the gates struggling with like early turnovers and stuff. So our second game against Hillsboro, who was also at home, which was nice, we really, really emphasized, like, we can't start slow again. Like, whether these teams are predicted to be, you know, elite teams or not, like, everybody can beat you on any given night if you're not playing your best game. So against Hillsboro, we came right out the gates just really, really well. And, you know, we built the lead up and never gave it up. We scored 83 points. Everybody scored except for one guy, I think, that played. So, like, those are my favorite games, when I can get everybody in the game, everybody on the scorebook. Like, everyone leaves the game being like, oh, I contributed, like, and there's evidence of my contribution. Because, like, even when we have games when like 9 guys play, like even if you're on the bench, you're contributing, but you can't look and see any stats or anything. So I think that can be kind of hard on kids. But that second game was really, really nice for us. We got up and ran more. We really wanted to be a hyper aggressive team, because we know we're big, but we're also athletic. So we thought, if we can get these 6'4" guys like out and running with a full head of steam, they're going to be pretty tough to guard. So it was nice to go 2-0 those first 2 games. Third game was where, you know, we knew we had to step it up a little bit. It was our first road game at Campbell. Last time we played there, they knocked us out of the playoffs. You know, I told the guys in the locker room, like, last time I was standing here in front of you guys, I was crying. So, like, we got to really, like, flip the mood here and jump on them. And same thing as Somersworth. We came out the gate so slow, so many turnovers, just couldn't take care of the ball. We were clearly flustered. It was the first game Ben was back, so trying to work him in, and everybody get used to the new minutes and playing time and stuff. So eventually we did come back, but Justin was ready for everything, and I knew it would be that way. I knew it would be a tough game, but they really impressed me. I think they're going to be pretty good. I know they've had 2 rough games against Belmont here, but Belmont's a very, very good team. I think Campbell's no joke. And next year, like, when those guys are a year older and Justin has a year with them, like, that is a team to watch out for sure. Gina Medina dunked on us. Like, he's going to be a hell of a player. I like him a lot. So those are our first 3 games. Fourth game at Kearsarge. This was, you know, the first game against, you know, this team was in the championship last year, and I know they lost some big pieces. They lost Noah Whipple, who was one of my favorite players last year. I love the way he plays. But I knew Camp was going to be ready for us. You know, it's a rivalry. Every time we play them, we have close games. You know, last year, they made it all the way to the end, and we lost in the first round, but both of our games against them were really close. So we knew we had to be prepared for a fight, and we got out executed. I would say I got out coached. Like, we lost by 7. When our starters were on the court, we did have leads and we were beating them, but we got into foul trouble. I didn't substitute in effective enough ways, and it was Ben and Jackson, our 2 best players. Like, I shouldn't have had them in at certain times, but they also need to be smarter about their, like, knowing what fouls they have, knowing I shouldn't reach when I'm 90 feet from hoop. I can't foul a 3-point shooter. Like, things that they know, but it just, in the moment, you're so competitive, it kind of leaves your mind. So it really sucked losing. Like, we were pretty upset about it, but we knew we weren't going to go undefeated. Nobody goes undefeated. So we lost to a good team. We lost to a great player in Eli. He had 23 points. I thought Kristoff did an amazing job on him. I think Eli scored on him in the half court, 1-on-1, like maybe 3 times. And they were really, really tough buckets. Like, a couple of his mid-range shots, we didn't blitz on screens. Like, we prepared. So it was just those getting used to, like, you can't be perfect every game, but those 2 mistakes right there, that's 4 points. Like, and you can't let someone that good get hot from outside. Like, as soon as he hits those, then he's going to hit the open threes on loose balls and stuff, which is exactly what happened. So, it was a good lesson for us. You know, we needed, I think, a little bit of humble pie. I needed a little bit of humble pie, absolutely. So that was good. But we wish we were 4-0 at that point, but we weren't. And then our 5th game, we just played Winnisquam on Monday. I was worried about it because it's kind of weird circumstances for a game. They didn't have school. It's Christmas break. We played 3 games the week before, so guys were tired. But Winnisquam is legit. Like, you saw them last year. They didn't win a game, but and this is my first time meeting Coach Dame, and you know, he did an excellent job over there. And they have a point guard, Owen Poole. He's a freshman. That kid's going to be a heck of a player. And they were with us the whole way. You know, we ended up winning by 3 in overtime, and this was our first game with our full 13-man roster. And I didn't think we played our A game or really even our B game. Like, I'd give us like a C-, but you know, we were lucky to get away with a win, to be honest. I thought they did a really, really good job. So those have been our first 5 games. It was a lot of talking, but you know, it's been fun so far. I will say, for being like 4-1, we don't feel like we're 4-1. Like, we feel like we haven't been playing our best and that we need to be better. Because like, you watch Belmont and Guilford right now, they're playing better basketball than we are, and we need to. You know, we don't have a ton of time to catch up, so we got to get on it right away.
Was there anything different about playing on the bigger college floor that impacted that game against Winnisquam, or do you feel like it didn't have a massive impact on it?
I personally didn't. The one thing that people, you know, don't really mention on college courts, because everybody talks about how the court's bigger, but the one thing is like shooting with the length of the court, the backdrop, it's just different for shooting, and outside shooting's already not our strength. So I was a little bit worried about that. I will say it definitely did not affect Winnisquam. They were lights out from outside. They were the best shooting team we've played so far. So I put in this new zone, like, to try and get the ball out of Poole's hands, and we had to get out of it after a few minutes because they were shooting so well. So I think it's easy to say the court like does some stuff. I think if we were a pressing team, maybe it would be, but we didn't press or anything. So I don't think it had too much of a change. And like, Guilford plays on a court that big, I think, and I want to say Hillsboro might be a college-sized court. So it's not like anything too crazy.
Okay. So now moving on, you got this holiday tournament coming up. That's going to start on the 27th. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be at Bow against Concord for your first game. So I know Saucier is a good coach. He's in the bracket. Jim Silly's a good coach with Pembroke. He's in the bracket. So you got some D2 coaches on the opposite side there. And then you have Merrimack Valley is in there. John Stark's in there. And then obviously you guys are matched up against Concord. So have you spoken to any of these coaches? Do you know that much about any of these coaches? I know you know Coach Sauce a little bit, but just kind of your overall thoughts going into it.
Yeah. So Concord is coached by Tim Latorra, but he helped.
He's been there forever. Right?
Yeah. Well, and he helped coach me when I was a kid. He used to teach gym at Hopkinton. So like, he would help out Dave Chase in his basketball camps. So I've known Tim for like 20 years, which is crazy. But he's a great guy. He's a good coach. I know they're struggling so far, but I think he's going to do a great job. Like you said, Saucier, I thought he was the best coach in Division III when he was at Conant for years. I hated playing against them. But I was hoping we'd get to play Bow again, because we had a good game against them last year. Hopefully we do get to play them. I don't know Coach Silly at Pembroke, but they're obviously always a great program. Merrimack Valley, we scrimmaged in the summer. Their coach, I think his name's Kelly. They were good. Like, they're legit. I know they haven't been off to a strong start yet, but I think they're a good team. We might get to play them if we win and they win. Like, it'd be fun to match up against them again. They had a really good player in the summer. He was athletic. Watching him and Ben go toe to toe was fun. And then we played John Stark last year. They're well coached. Bishop Brady, I don't know who's coaching them off the top of my head, but there's some good coaches in here, and we're the only D3 school. So we have a lot to prove, but we also, kind of have nothing to lose. So I'm treating it kind of the same way that Coach Martinez said on your podcast with him. Like, I'm treating it like it's another game. Like, we're working on kind of stepping up our game. Like I said, we haven't played at the level we want to yet. So, I'm not treating this like a scrimmage or getting everybody equal minutes. Like, we're trying to win these games. We're trying to get our confidence up. I feel like we're really meshing on offense, and hopefully we can get a big win against a Division I school. Like, that would be a huge boost for us.
Agreed. Concord, I think anytime when you can get a win against a school who's in Division I, that's very helpful for your program. And then the deeper you can go into the bracket, the more experience you get with that stuff. So always good stuff with that competition. And then you're going to have still a schedule obviously coming out of the break. So it'll be nice to have, that little holiday tournament in there. Looking at your schedule right now, looks like you open up at home against Conan on the 7th. So you have a little over a week off following the tournament if you do make it all the way through to the championship that at the end of that tournament. And then you're at Hillsboro, Kearsarge at home, at St. Thomas, and then home against Guilford to really start out 2026. Those are some tough games in there against some good teams. Anything worth noting that you and the guys have discussed?
Yeah, just that, it ramps up after the break, especially in Division III, where I think we're the first division that's like done with everything. So it's kind of crammed in here. So coming out of the break against Conant, thankfully it's at home. Conant's a really tough place to play. We were able to win last year, but it was a good game. Jimmy Peart over there is a great coach. They play their butts off on defense. They always have. So that'll be fun. And then at Hillsboro and then Kearsarge, like, playing a team a second time is always a good test. It's nice to see like what adjustments they make. Especially, Kearsarge, I know Camper is going to have some adjustments for us. It's going to be exciting. We have we do too. And obviously the guys are really excited to try and get revenge because, we lost against them. And then that Kearsarge game kicks off like a gauntlet for us. Kearsarge at St. Thomas and Guilford is no joke. Like, we need to be ready to go because, like I said, we don't have a ton of time to figure this stuff out. Like, we clearly have the talent, and I need to do a better job of just executing and putting it together and figuring out what guys play well with, or which guys play well with who. So, we're excited. We like having a difficult schedule. Last year we had, I think, probably the second most difficult schedule behind Conant. Like, I think we play everybody good except Belmont, unfortunately, but Guilford, Mascoma, Fall Mountain, Stevens, St. Thomas, Kearsarge, like, those are all teams that are going to be in the tournament. So these are really important reps for us.
I agree. Is there anything that's going to be different? You're looking like you're a tournament team, obviously 4-1. If you're able to keep a record like that, there's 2/3 of the teams in the division that get in, and Hopkinton's got a strong history of getting into the tournament. So I don't want to be too presumptuous, but it looks pretty likely that you guys will be in the tournament later on. So is there anything different this year that you would change to your approach of the tournament?
Well, obviously our goal is to have at least one home game, ideally two, but that's not easy with how many good teams there are. Going to Campbell last year was rough. Like, they have a home court advantage. Their fans were into it, which as a coach I love. Like, I love a loud atmosphere where the pressure's on right from the start. But there's nothing better than playing at home. Like, my senior year in the playoffs, our playoff games were amazing. So, like, I really like to get that, especially for our 3 seniors. Like, they deserve that. So we'd love to host it, and then just not having to take a bus. Like, it does suck. Bus rides are brutal. So that would be nice. But no matter where we end up, like, we're gonna have a tough game. There's not gonna be an easy game. Like, last year, every coach after every game told us, like, I hope we don't see you guys in this tournament. And then we drew Campbell. We were the only first round game that was in single digits. So, like, I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think there's going to be a lot of close games. There's a lot of good teams. So, we're excited. And having as high a possible seed is going to be really important. So, that's our goal. We're trying to string wins together. We're focused right now on Concord, but in the back of my mind, I'm getting ready for Conan too, because that goes on the record. But um, we got to really step it up here because we're 4-1, but there's I think 3 undefeated teams, and they're really good teams. So we are at a disadvantage with that loss, and we got to make up for it.
Anything else you want to add on here for the audience?
I think the previous coaches you've been talking to have had some pretty excellent messages at the end. I don't really know if there's anything I could add, but I would just encourage anyone out there that's thinking about getting into coaching in any capacity, like absolutely try it. It's really incredible. It's by far my favorite thing. I love game planning. I'm watching film every single day. And obviously you have to love the sport. I've always loved basketball. It's been like my favorite thing forever. So I just love watching hoops. It's been fun to watch all these teams in the division and then Division 1 teams. So if you have a passion for a sport, go volunteer at a youth league, whatever you got to do, just get into coaching in some way. Cause, we need more coaches around the state and around the country too. And I know, especially if you're a younger person, like a younger member of the audience, the kids can really use some younger voices. Like Coach Jacobson for us is huge in that regard. And, I'm unfortunately 30 now. So I feel like even I'm a little bit out of touch sometimes. So, just having some youth is really nice to almost be like a middleman in translating to the kids. So, we need more young coaches. That would be my plea for everybody.
You're half the age of some of the other coaches in the division, so you're not that old.
Well, I feel like sometimes I'm coaching about half as well as them, so that makes sense.
All right. Well, you're going to just keep getting better. So it was nice to have you on, Liam. Thanks for coming on today. It was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Drew. Always a pleasure. I also, real quick, would just want to say, send some best wishes out to Dave Chase, my former coach. He's dealing with some medical stuff, and I hope he gets better. And I'm wishing him the best and want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate.
Please subscribe to the channel and like the video to help me expand my local sports coverage. Thank you.